because the Leafs are out doesn't mean I'm not busy. It also doesn't mean I'm not sad. So I'm sad and busy. There was a press conference today with the Toronto Maple Leafs introducing Craig Berube after naming him the 41st or 32nd, depending on who you ask, head coach in the history of the Toronto Maple Leafs on Friday of a long weekend. For some of you who are hungover today, that is news to you, and I'm sorry to cause alarm. But now here he is in the flesh answering some questions. So I want to talk about that in this video. But also, there's a little too much noise about Mitch Marner. There's a little too much noise, and we're going to talk about all that. We'll start with Berube, and I'll get to Marner later. So there were 4 people there. Keith Pelly, the new CEO of MLSE, Brendan Shanahan, who's the president of the Leafs, Brad Treliving, who's the GM, and Craig Berube, who is now the head coach. Keith Pelly did all his talking last week. He was more decorative, and he was there for the photo where he took a photo. Drew, can we see the photo? Wow, look at all those guys holding the jersey. Wow. These photos always crack me up because usually what they're for is you look back at them in like 4 years and you go, huh, there's only one guy left because all the other ones got fired. Hopefully it's like, hey, like they get to recreate that photo with cup rings. Usually these press conferences are kind of nothing burgers, and it's not like this one was anything special, but there were some key takeaways. First, I want to highlight this one from Berube. He was asked about the fact that, hey, the Leafs have had multiple 100-point seasons under Sheldon Keefe, but then they get to the playoffs and they're not able to get the job done. What are you going to do differently?
Yeah, well, that stuff's in the past, to be honest with you. I'm focused on now and the future, and I'm going to obviously bring my own style here and how we want to play the game. And again, Brad and Brendan are on board with that. They think a lot similar to myself, and so all I can do is focus on now and going forward, how we want to build the team here and how we want to look on the ice.
That might not seem like a huge answer, but that is exactly the kind of mindset Berube needs to have and the Leafs need to have. Listen, I'll pay attention to the history of the Toronto Maple Leafs, especially the recent history, all the things that we've seen over recent years, trends, and they lost this year, and here's how they lost, and then they lost this year, and they lost the exact same way, and stuff like that. One thing the Leafs have been dealing with for years, and we know about this because of the Amazon documentary from the Leafs in the 2021 playoffs, years ago, the coaches were all in a room together, the executives, and they were talking about demons. Because it's almost like every single time this team takes the ice, like whether it's a power play or a playoff series, they get to a game 7, they freeze, they play their worst hockey. They can't do it. Even if they do play well, they can't do it. Cody Ceci has the same amount of game 7 goals since 2022 as the entire Toronto Maple Leafs team in the same amount of games. You know what I mean? And you might be sitting here going, wow, that's pretty bad. And you know what? It is pretty bad. And does that have anything to do with Craig Berube? No, he just got here. And you might look at certain players on the roster and go, okay, well, it does have to do with them. He's not looking at it that way, and that's the way you have to look at it. Next year's team, the 2024-2025 Toronto Maple Leafs, are the 2024-2025 Toronto Maple Leafs. They are what they are, a single season team. Yeah, you got to build a culture, you got to look to the future, but when you're preparing for a game, when you take the ice, that game is the game that matters. That period is the period that matters. That shift is the shift that matters. Nothing matters next season except for next season. Because these guys don't want to lose, and they don't want to let the fans down. And there's no greater apology for past failures than future success. And the way you apologize for on-ice failures of the past is success in the present and future. It's harder to achieve that success if you're constantly thinking about the past. Yes, Brendan Shanahan is still there. New CEO of MLSE. GM's been there for 1 year. You could argue this is his first full offseason with the team. In fact, it is his first full offseason with the team. And new head coach. For most of those guys, if you talk to them about all these game sevens and losing to Montreal in 2021, they're like, okay, so why are you bringing that up with me? Craig, do you ever think about the Leafs losing in game 7 this year just like they did in 2019? No, I don't, because in 2019 I was too busy winning the cup. Against the Bruins, actually. He doesn't talk like that, but you know what I mean. Next, I really like this clip of Brendan Shanahan talking about a clip that's been going viral of Shanahan fighting Craig Berube back when they both played in the NHL together.
I remember that one in particular. I think I was around 19. When I came in as an 18-year-old, I was playing in the bottom six and playing a lot against Craig. And then about halfway through my second year, I got put on the first line and doing really well in the first line. And Craig came up to me at the end of a game and said, well, I guess you're not going to fight us guys anymore. And I said, let's go. And at the end of the fight, I said, you know what? He might have had it right. Maybe I should stop doing that.
I really like this clip because Brendan Shanahan is smiling and feeling good. Listen, I didn't mince words. Like, at the end of the season, Shanahan's been here 10 years. They lost again. He's only got one playoff series win. What are we even doing here? Here's the fact of the matter. He's here. He's here, and he's the president of the Leafs, and his job is to get the Leafs to win. And they're already not firing him. So, yeah, that resume is worth keeping in mind, but, like, it's not going to do anything this offseason. If they completely stink next season or they suffer in the playoffs the exact same way, then yeah, we bring it back up. I guess the thing is, Brendan Shanahan looks so somber and so sad at the press conference last week where Keith Pelly was there. I want this guy looking at the team differently. I don't want him hating his job. And some of the things that Shanahan touched on in that quote, Brad Treliving talks about in this one.
You know, I look at Craig's background. Number one is his playing career. He's touched every step on the ladder in terms of where he sits now as a head coach in the NHL. Was a player, longtime player, 1,000 games in the league, assistant coach, head coach in the American Hockey League, an assistant coach in the National Hockey League, and then ultimately a head coach in the National Hockey League. I look at Craig as a longtime organizational man in the Philadelphia Flyers organization. That to me is meaningful. Craig had been there, had done every job in a rich tradition franchise such as Philadelphia. Really the first time he ventured out of that organization was to one other organization, St. Louis, who I consider one of the most successful teams over the last decade. He won a championship there. The homework you do with people that worked for, and played for Craig is you have players that, to me, talked about how they would go through a wall for him. The connection that he had with his players, the accountability that he had with his players, the bond that he was able to build with staff. Ultimately, character matters. Character matters. It matters with your team, and it matters most importantly with your head coach. I look at Craig, and ultimately what brought me back to him was his leadership, his ability to build teams and have a team-first concept, his ability to connect with players, and his ability to hold people accountable.
Fascinating quote about Berube there. You're going to hear a bunch of quotes about like, oh, Berube has more experience than Sheldon Keefe. Okay, well, what does that mean? Like, oh, he went deeper in the playoffs and he won a Stanley Cup. Is it that he's 58 and Sheldon Keefe is 43? There's a 15-year age gap between Berube and Keefe. So very different life experiences. What I liked is Brad Treliving talking about Berube touching every rung of the ladder in his climb up through the NHL. And I think that's really important. I'm not necessarily saying there were gaps in Sheldon Keefe's hockey education. The Leafs did really well under him. He played in the NHL. He was a head coach in the NHL with the same team for half a decade, which is near impossible these days. Sheldon Keefe knows what he's doing. But I went back and looked at his job history on EliteProspects.com. He became the franchise owner of the Pembroke Lumber Kings in the 03-04 season. He was the assistant coach in the 05-06 season. Then on top of being the franchise owner, he became the head coach the next season. And his next experience as an assistant coach coach was never. He was an assistant coach at one international tournament in 2013. That's it. Berube played 1,054 career NHL games and another 89 in the playoffs for 7 different NHL teams. Then he was an assistant coach in the AHL for 2 seasons. Then it says he was an assistant coach in the NHL for a little bit before becoming a head coach in the AHL the next season, still with the Flyers organization. Then he was an assistant coach with the Flyers for 6 seasons before becoming head coach for parts of 2 seasons. I forgot that he was ever head coach of the Flyers in my last video, my bad. Then he was a head coach with the Chicago Wolves in the AHL, associate coach with the St. Louis Blues for 2 seasons before being named head coach and then winning a cup, and being the head coach of the St. Louis Blues for half a decade. I liked the idea of bringing Sheldon Keefe in because there was synergy in the organization. He was Kyle Dubas's guy, and they obviously had a working relationship that worked. Like, we can't deny that the Leafs had some success. Like, they did very well in the regular season. Their regular season philosophies worked. They failed in the playoffs. And they were probably confused by how they failed in the playoffs because they won a Calder Cup together. It's not the same, dude. It's not the same. But Berube has been gathering experience as a head coach and as an assistant coach forever. And you might look at the years on the resume and go, wait a sec, Sheldon Keefe and Craig Berube actually have coached for roughly the same number of years. Yes, but Berube has been in professional hockey the entire time. I look at it like this. You got a job, right? I'm sure a lot of you watching this got a job. And if you don't got a job, you've probably had a job. And if you've never had a job, one day you're going to get a job. You don't have to do everything. But it's important to know at very least how the sausage is made. Like, okay, for example, I work in media. You don't gotta be a camera guy. You don't gotta be a writer. You don't gotta be the lighting guy. You don't gotta be the sound guy. You don't gotta be the editor. You don't gotta be on camera. But it's important to at least know how all those things work, how all those roles work, and it helps to have done them at least a little bit. You don't have to be an expert, but do them at least a little bit so that you understand what the people you're working with are dealing with. Listen, there are certain guys where when they retire, you're like, they're going to be a coach right away. And they're going to be a head coach right away. And they're going to be great. Craig Berube's earned it, man. Like, he's worked his way up. He's worked under different organizations, different minds, different experiences. It's a good depth of knowledge to add to the team. I don't think it's about reinventing the wheel. I think it's about just drawing upon more experience. Now, Mitch Marner. I think this is important to talk about. Before we get to what happened today, let's go back in time to yesterday. Julian McKenzie is on vacation, so I filled in as the host of the Chris Johnston Show, and I got to talk to CJ while he was in Prague, for the World Hockey Championship. We played a favorite game of the Leafs offseason, staying or going. I went through the whole Leafs roster and said staying or going, and he ranked them on the CJ scale, which is 1 to 8. 1 being not very likely to happen, and 8 being very likely. His answer when I asked him about Mitch Marner staying or going was interesting.
The Marner one's interesting because, really you can work this one where everyone wins, but it takes trust and it takes an ability. It takes, a desire or a willingness to work together. And they kind of need each other for that to work. And if that dissipates for any reason, or if that doesn't present itself, it could be an everyone loses situation too, right? I mean, if the Leafs can't find a way to move him in a way that makes sense for them and he gets an extension as part of it, then he's coming back to Toronto in the fall for what's an important season, right? It's his platform season, entering unrestricted free agency. Where, how does that look? Like, where the pressure on him, the discussion around him. I mean, I think that's what everyone's banking on. Is it really, as much as he's a hometown guy and he's obviously a huge star of the team, I'm not sure that it makes sense for everyone to come back. I think they got to find a solution together. But I don't get the feeling that's happening yet. And so after July 1st makes a ton of sense for him, just because that his final bonus payment comes then. And then in terms of actual money, I mean, he's still an expensive player, just under $11 million cap hit for next season, but the actual dollars at the door aren't much. And it actually might give the next team more of an ability to sign him to a higher number on an 8-year deal, because in that team's mind, they're like, okay, here's what the cap looks like for 9 years. But the actual dollars at the door are here. And so there's a way that I think when we're talking about aligning incentives where it aligns for the Leafs that they can maybe get a return that makes sense, you know, do some other things that make sense. And then for him, it allows him to sign a contract that he can't even necessarily get on the open market. And certainly on the open market, if he goes to the following July 1st, he can only get a 7-year deal too. And when you make the kind of money he's going to make per year, it's no small amount of dough that you're talking about to do it. So, you know, it's going to take you really got to thread a needle here to make this work. But I do think when you step back, when you take emotion out of it, when you take the hyperbole of everything around the Leafs out of it, it just makes sense for Mitch to want to maybe chart his next spot if they want to move on without him, and to sign an extension this summer rather than, you know, as much as I know Darren Ferris clients often are taken right to free agency, there's risk in that, especially in this circumstance. If he drives a hard bargain or if he says, absolutely not, I will not consider being moved. Like, I think it's more than likely to happen, but right down to the end, he has to sign off on it. So it just because it's more than likely as we sit here at the end of May, there's just a lot of things that can happen between then and now.
So there it is, right there. You're hearing a lot about Mitch, and most of it is very not happening, right? You're hearing all these different trade proposals and everything. Just because those specific trade proposals are not happening does not mean this isn't trending in the direction of Marner's getting traded. CJ also said John Tavares, who we've also been trading in our heads and everything, is almost for sure staying. He left the door open that Tavares could go, but he gets to waive his full no move. Dude's got 3 kids. He's on the wrong side of 30. I just don't see it happening. But the idea that Mitch Marner could be traded by the Toronto Maple Leafs is not falling out of the sky. It's based in reality. Now, there was a clip that went viral today. Nashville Predators, busy bees today. Barry Trotz, GM of the Nashville Predators, busy bee. He traded Ryan McDonough back to the Tampa Bay Lightning, got a couple picks, freed up a ton of cap space by doing that. Why would the Nashville Predators need cap space? Lots of people keep saying there's some sort of deal where Marner could be traded for Saros, or I saw there was one for Cody Glass. Regardless of the names involved, Mitch? Nashville. Well, Alex Daugherty, a Predators beat writer for the Tennessean, asked Barry Trotz about Marner specifically, and I spoke to him. He said I could use the clip. Here it is.
With I mean, something like 25 million, I've done the math exactly, but something like that left. I mean, there's a lot of big names out there. One of those is Mitch Marner. Is that a name that you look at now? You've got the money to kind of take that on. Is that a name that?
I don't think Mitch is a free agent.
Okay.
So, I wouldn't be. No, I just been.
There have been trade talks. Is all I'm saying.
Well, yeah. No, well, they have to talk to me. I don't talk to them, so
okay.
Not that I know of. But I read the same stuff as you. It's just rumors.
It seems like a nothing burger. It seems like a nothing burger, but it's not. Now, Alex did mention additional context for this clip to me. The question that was asked before Alex asked this question was specifically about free agents. What free agents might the Predators be interested in? That's why when Alex asked about Mitch Marner specifically, Trotz was like, oh, I didn't know he was a free agent. Now, I want you to watch the clip again.
I don't think Mitch is a free agent.
Okay.
I wouldn't be. I just been.
There have been trade talks. Is all I'm saying.
Well, yeah. No, well, they have to talk to me. I don't talk to them, so
okay.
Not that I know of. But I read the same stuff as you. That's just rumors.
All right, I'm about to become a body language expert, PhD, okay? I think a lot of people are watching this going, that's a stupid question. Trotz can't talk about Marner. He can't talk about Marner and not get fined for tampering. But Alex can absolutely ask about it. And at the end of the day, the quote was deny, 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 but there were some interesting little mumbles in the denial. Trotz said,
oh, yeah. No, well, they have to talk to me. I don't talk to them, so
okay.
Not that I know of. But I read the same stuff as you. That's just rumors.
They have to talk to me. I haven't talked to them. Not that I know of. You ever watch a murder mystery on TV and there's a character who definitely did it? That's the kind of answer they would give. They have to talk to me. I haven't talked to them. Not that I know of. There's a few ways you can interpret that. Number one, he's a very busy man and he legitimately doesn't remember if he's ever talked to the Leafs about anything, let alone Mitch Marner. Number two, he's asking them to talk to him. which is spicy. Number 3, Barry Trotz is not the only member of the Nashville Predators front office, so maybe he hasn't talked to the Leafs about Mitch, but maybe somebody else has. 4, and this one, like, we should go to this one more often. He's just lying, pants on fire, lying. But it wasn't lost on me that at the end of that clip, he admits he's seen the rumors too. Listen, I'm not saying Mitch to the Preds. I'm not. I'm not even 100% gonna say Marner is getting traded. I am saying really smart people who know what's going on seem to think he's getting traded. We will see how that progresses. He's got a signing bonus to be paid July 1st, and then he will make a lot less money for the team who is acquiring him after that bonus is paid. Then he can be traded to a team, and that team will then have him for a year where he makes less than $1 million, and they'll be able to sign him to an 8-year contract extension. Ultimately, it comes down to Marner's willingness to waive his no-move clause. It sounds like there's a decent chance of that happening. I guess the question is where. So, what do you think of the press conference, of the Marner stuff, of all of it? Leave a comment in the comment box down below. But for now, that is it for this one. Thank you very much for watching. Click like if you like this video. Click subscribe if you really liked it. Tell all your friends. Barry Trotz. Spicy. Same sentence. Off-putting.